guys, it's Angelo, and welcome to my Shadow Priest guide for patch 8.3 in Ny'alotha, the Waking City. As this is a big content patch, there are a lot of new features and new content coming to World of Warcraft, and the Shadow Priest has indeed also seen a few changes that the spec will have to deal with. Patch 8.3 has brought some nerfs to the Shadow Priest, reducing its single target damage capabilities severely, while also reducing the multi-target cleave damage by a substantial amount. New in-game mechanics like the corruption system counter this a little, fortunately for us, but ultimately the Shadow Priest is definitely in a more competitive spot now, rather than just being at the top, and definitely needs to play well in order to compete in raids at the moment, and even more so in Mythic Plus. In this guide, as well as in all my guides before, we'll go over what has changed for the Shadow Priest, and we will talk about how the recent nerfs, which had hit us very hard, have impacted the spec. After that, we'll be discussing our talents and which ones to pick, our rotation, and finally, the overall pros and cons of the spec itself. Now, if you wish to discuss anything priest related with myself or fellow viewers, then be sure to join the Discord server, with the link of course being in the description box below. Now, that being said, and without holding us up any longer, let's go right ahead and have a look. First, we'll look at what has changed. On screen now, you'll see a detailed list of all changes and, well, nerfs which came along with patch 8.3, and as you can see, these have hit us relatively hard. If you want a detailed rundown of these nerfs, be sure to check out my Shadow Priest changes video for patch 8.3, which should appear in the top right corner of your screen now, but for the sake of time in this video, let's just talk about these changes in a quick summary. Clearly, we've been nerfed pretty hard, and this affects us in both raids and in Mythic Plus quite heavily. Important to note here is that the nerfs are most noticeable in Mythic Plus, but we are most certainly far away from our previously dominant DPS position, no matter what you prefer playing, so no matter if Mythic Dungeons or raids. Fortunately for us though, the Shadow Priest is a spec which scales exceptionally well with gear and item level, meaning we will definitely compensate most of these nerfs with more gear in the upcoming weeks debatably, but until then, we will undoubtedly remain quite weak. Be sure to tell me what you think about these changes hitting us with patch 8.3. Did you expect them? Did you feel surprised? I definitely expected some nerfs to come, but these were quite heavy in my personal opinion. When taking a look at our stat priority, nothing has changed. Haste and Critical Strike remain pretty equal in value, and you'll want to aim towards having as much of both as possible. Mastery and Versatility will want to be avoided unless you have no other chance. Intellect will be pretty much on every item you use, but when it comes to the rings, once more, try and go for either Haste, Critical Strike, or both, but not for Versatility and not for Mastery. Now, however it may be, let's go ahead and move on and take a look at our talents. There, we will actually see less changes as you may expect after taking these nerfs into consideration. Our talents see little change in diversity, and the basic framework of our playstyle remains exactly the same. In our level 15 talent row, Shadow Word Void still reigns completely superior, and for PvE content will be the only viable option. In our level 30 talent row, you will most likely be picking Body and Soul still, with Intangibility being pretty situational, but for example very strong in island expeditions, and Sand Lane being even more situational now than it had been in patch 8.2. In our level 45 talent row, Twist of Fate will generally be your best option in raids, with Misery being strong in certain situations, especially for the more difficult later bosses which spawn a lot of adds, especially so the Hive Mind, Il'gynoth, and the Carapace of Enzoth, just to name a few examples. Dark Void will be competitive in Mythic Plus just as it has been before. Our level 60 talent row will see you making use of either Last Word or Psychic Horror in most situations, but once more this is pretty situational, as Mind Bomb can be effective in Mythic Plus. Our level 75 talent row is the same row which saw most gameplay changes in patch 8.2, but remains pretty stale and pretty boring this patch, especially because of our nerfs. Auspicious Spirits has been nerfed again, but due to the combination of all of our nerfs, both Shadow Crash and Shadow Word Death are completely not viable at all. Shadow Crash can still be used for Mythic Plus keys, but for raids, you will go with Auspicious Spirits and Auspicious Spirits only. The talent also grants less passive insanity per Spiteful Apparition than previously, but the more targets you have, obviously the more insanity you'll gain, which will of course result in a higher Void Form uptime overall. The reduction in this talent row alone severely hinders our damage capabilities, but unfortunately, as it stands currently, you will most likely not see any fights where you'll pick any other option. Our level 90 talent row remains unchanged, with Lingering Insanity on top, as it is incredibly important to an effective and fluid playstyle, placing its competitors in complete unusability. Finally, our level 100 talent row also remains unchanged. Legacy of the Void will still be your go-to in pretty much all situations, while Dark Ascension will see its use in Mythic Plus or in heavy AoE damage reliant encounters. Dark Ascension is pretty close in any situation theoretically, as it does sim just as high or even slightly higher in some situations as Legacy of the Void. However, it has more potential to fail and is less forgiving towards your mistakes overall. Since some boss mechanics are not predictable, specifically whether or not they will target you or not, Legacy of the Void remains to be stronger. Good. Now, with our talents discussed, let's go ahead and take a look at our rotation and our cooldowns. When it comes to our rotation, the only changes we will see would stem from the talents we pick as well as the essences we would use. As a Shadow Priest, you will want to stick to Memory of Lucid Dreams as your primary essence, as its active ability, or major power, increases your insanity generation by 100% for a short period of time, depending on your essence rank, while its minor power has a chance to refund the insanity drained for 1 second of your Void Form, while simultaneously increasing your versatility. This essence will be your best for raiding, as the higher Void Form stacks as well as the passive will result in a higher haste via Lingering Insanity, as well as higher critical strike via Chorus of Insanity. Blood of the Enemy is a great minor essence to use along with the essence of the Focusing Iris. Now, if you're already at a heart level of 75, then you will also want to take Breath of the Undying, which is one of the new essences. If you would like to see a video where I go into detail with the essences, the link should pop up on your screen now, and there you will find a full list of the essences you will want to pick. Ideally, you'll want to start off a fight by opening via Void Eruption. As this is not possible anymore really by spamming Power Word Shield before a fight, most of the time you will have to ramp up completely from zero at pull. When the encounter starts off by your tanks doing a pull timer, you'll want to use your potion just before your first cast of Shadow Word Void. You then apply your dots before casting your next Shadow Word Void and then filling the remaining required insanity with your Mind Flay. Once you're ready to enter Void Form, you will do so and then immediately press the button again to send out your first Void Bolt. You now continue your regular rotation of Mind Blasts, or Shadow Word Void if you spect it, and Mind Flays, while prioritizing Void Bolt whenever it's available. Once you're at around 25 stacks of Void Form, you'll want to make use of your Memory of Lucid Dreams major power by activating that. A pro tip here is to activate the essence right before your first cast of Void Bolt, or rather your any Void Bolt cast after the 25 stacks, so that you can make use of the insanity you'll gain from the Void Bolt, which will easily bump your insanity back up again. You can also use it right after you've cast Shadow Word Void, of course. From there on, just continue with your regular rotation, and be sure to stick to this method of the essence use every time it's off cooldown. Finally, we get to the pros and cons of the spec. The Shadow Priest once again does fit into the content presented with patch 8.3, however, due to the strong nerfs, will definitely struggle with it in the beginning. Funnily enough, At the beginning of the previous raid here, I said the exact same thing about the Shadow Priest, as early on it seemed we'd not be as strong as in the battle for Dazar Lore, but at the end of the content the Shadow Priest was very, very strong after all. Just as with the previous patch, it remains to be seen whether or not the Shadow Priest will be competitive, especially in later bosses, or if the spec will remain weak. Only time will tell, but overall I am not overly worried. What do you think? Do you expect Shadow to be strong again eventually? Do you feel as if the nerfs have reduced the spec too heavily? I'd be interested to know what you have to say in the comments below or on Discord. Very special thanks as always to my supporters over at Patreon, you guys help out a lot, and a shout out to all of the people over at Discord, be it in personal DMs or on our server, who keep the community alive and who help each other out day by day. Now, as always, thank you so much for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, and if you'd like to see more of my content in the future, feel free to subscribe. Have a good one, my friends, enjoy patch 8.3, I will see you guys next weekly reset with the updated rotation guide, so as always, I'll see you all in the next one.